The trucking industry is under consistent pressure from multiple fronts. On one end, news continues to spiral about a looming diesel shortage as prices remain high and U.S. diesel supplies reach their lowest since 2008, sparking panic and debate about when the U.S. would run out of diesel. And on the other end, the trucking industry is still in desperate need of labor, with the ATA's most recent report on truck driver shortages placing projections at the second highest level on record since 2021. So, needless to say, the U.S. supply chain and the transportation of freight is becoming a growing concern for businesses that are already struggling to recover from the pandemic in this challenging economy. And to that, coming off a fresh victory by Congress, the President Joe Biden, and major railway freight companies against workers demanding sick days as part of recent contract negotiations, there are two major railroads that are pursuing a merger, and a third, owned by billionaire Warren Buffett, is retaliating against one railroader who helped lead the push for better working conditions. Now, I've shared with you in previous videos how these railroad companies are cutthroat and will retaliate against employees. But if you want me to go into more specifics and dive deeper on that, just let me know, comment down below, and if there's enough interest in the topic, then I'll be sure to make that video. So, folks, get this. There is a coalition of 10 organizations that sent a letter to the Surface Transportation Board urging it to reject the merger of Canadian Pacific and Kansas City Southern on a number of different grounds, warning that further consolidation would lead to diminished service, higher prices, and more trucks on the road. Despite rosy promises from the carriers to the contrary, and the fact that there is a continued possible threat of a truck driver and diesel shortage. But heavily concentrated and dangerously brittle supply chains continue to drive inflation amid the pandemic. However, the dangers are far more severe than the higher prices we all will see on pretty much every item and service we pay for every single day. The Kansas City Star reported, "This will kill people. Small town fights, $31 billion merger of Kansas City Southern Canadian Pacific." So some Mississippi residents are worried that the trains that roll not far from their clapboard houses could one day kill them or possibly their neighbors and cause these small town residents to suffer. And their concerns echo throughout the community and others like it. If a proposed $31 billion merger between two powerful rail companies, Kansas City Southern and Canadian Pacific Railway, receives federal approval in early 2023, the number of so-called monster freight trains rumbling through the town each day will triple. Instead of 5 to 10 trains per day, the merger is expected to bring an average of 21, or perhaps more, many of them heavier and at massive lengths. And for Canadian Pacific and Kansas City Southern, the benefits of a merger are straightforward. The merger would join 7,300 miles of Kansas City Southern's tracks with 15,000 miles of Canadian Pacific's to create a single north to south rail corridor that would bisect the center of the country, stretching 22,000 miles from deep into Mexico all the way to Canada. These folks are looking at the dollar signs as usual and are not concerned with the casualties and body counts that will add up quickly as a result. Cities and small towns stretching from Houston to Chicago are similarly afraid of how a merger will affect daily life. But the fight and its possible consequences is perhaps sharpest in the small towns, where along the tracks, train lengths are expected to grow to 2 to even 3 miles long. Every time they run, they create a rolling wall that cuts towns into two, blocking street crossings from where people live and work. Just think of the possibly fatal consequences if someone were to have a massive seizure, or someone has a heart attack or stroke, or is hurt and bleeding from an accident. An ambulance and medical assistance and attention would probably not be able to reach these people in time. Or what if there's a derailment, a spill of oil or toxic chemicals that could leave some residents trapped between the tracks and the Mississippi River? The possibilities are endless, but who's to stop these multi-billion-dollar companies and CEOs with politicians in Washington in their back pockets?